Hi guys, Piotr here, LiteFinance Global YouTube channel, and that's my pleasure to be with you as usual, guys. What we are going to discuss today, we are going to try to explore two day trading strategies, and well, I'm so satisfied to share with you few hints. Well, I'm pretty sure what we are going to discuss, all of you already know. That's the key. That's where I'm going to ask you to do your own research, do your own homework before blindly you are going to try to follow the steps we are going to discuss. Okay, so what we are going to discuss today, what we are going to talk about, well, when it comes to the intraday trading, quite a few times we were discussing that, well, the one thing is the failure when it comes to the break to the downsides, when we are talking about the demand, and failure when we are talking about to the false break to the upside and then the pullback. That's number one. Number two, of course, the most famous, most hated, most loved, the strategy is to head and shoulders. That's what we are going to try to discuss today, taking into consideration some certain setups. All right, so let's have a look what we have, guys, here over here, and we are discussing the FX market. We are discussing the 1 hour charts, basically the most important when it comes to the intraday trading. Well, again, it might work overall on many different time frames, but as well as it may not work sometimes. Then depends on your research, especially if it's going to be very short. Well, you might fall in love, or you might say, come on, I hate it, it's not working. Well, that's why I strongly encourage you to make at least 100 tests before you are going to start to trade based on what we are going to talk about. All right, so here we go. The very most famous for me, well, is a trade based on the horizontal lines, especially when we are talking about the London and New York Open failure when it comes to the attempt to move against the current trend. Right, so in that case, let's have a look what we have. Of course, you, and it's really very important, you have to do your own research, you have to do your own homework, you have to check the setups. Basically, you have to check the things related to the time frame when it comes to the London or New York Open. All right, without a further delay, let's have a look what we have here. So overall, when it comes to this full move to the downside over here, we have some bear flag, another bear flag, and one more bear flag. That's pretty easy to spot. Now, what is most important here is the thing that overall we do have the one clear direction. When we are going to talk about that, taking into the consideration what we have at some lower levels, then let's have a look what is going on here. Well, we have some supply level around here, and we have under supply level based on what we've seen here, right? So this type of the setup. So When it comes to the failure, that's what I'm going to try to explain you. We were discussing a few times, but I want to go deeply. I want to explore these things. So guys, you do have your own short setup, right? You do have your own supply level, and the market is trying to fight with this level, taking into the consideration that the main direction is to the downside in that case, right? So we are fighting. All right, plenty of guys are going to try to trade this exact touches. No, not the case for me. What I would like to see is some kind of the attempt to break and the failure after this attempt to break. Then what I wanted to see is some kind of the retest of the major supply level. In that case, I'm going to look for, after the failure over here and move to the downside, that's where I'm going to try to look for the sell short opportunity like this. So what we've seen here, right, it was the huge monster move to the downside, all right, with the attempt to the move back. We've seen supply level. We've seen supply level. We've seen supply level to be taken over and then close below and again continuation to the downside. What is the most important thing here is that, well, we have huge advantage of what is going on when it comes to the risk reward levels. Why? Because if we are going to see that the market may want to fail, right, when it comes to the counter move, we exactly know where our stop is going to be. In our case, it's going after the failure to the upside over here. We know our stop is going to be here. Once we are below, we want to target 2R, 3R. I love to see 3R with this type of the setup. There you go. We've seen like, I don't know, 20, 30 3R with this such a setup. All right. So that's when we are talking about the horizontal lines, when we are talking about the failure when it comes to the move against or opposite to the current direction from the higher time frame. So we are talking here about the attempt to rally when the overall direction is to the downside. That's strategy number one. Strategy number two is same, equal, very interesting, whatever you want to call it. Why? Because here I'm looking for particular setup. Again, if we are going to the downside, I'm going to look for some kind of the inverted head and shoulder setup, and if we are going to the upside like here, I'm looking for regular head and shoulder setup. Why? Because in that particular cases, I'm looking strongly for the failure of the head and shoulder pattern. Now, what I'm looking particularly for, well, we do have two different trading approaches. Well, if we have left shoulder, if we have a head and we are trying to build right shoulder, what I'm looking for is some kind of the megaphone formation when it comes to the right shoulder. When it comes to inverted head and shoulder, right, I'm looking for particular pattern when it comes to the megaphone on the right shoulder, when it comes to the inverted head and shoulder. So let's have a look what we have when we are talking about this particular strategy. All right, so let's try to develop that one. All right, so in that cases we might want to switch to another FX cross, in that case cable, right? Let's have a look what we have here. Okay, in that particular case, after the huge and monster rally, okay, to the upside, market decided to go down, okay, like it is here, and market decided to go again much more higher, right? So what we were looking for, it was some kind of the regular head and shoulder formation, okay, failure, and we are looking for the possibility to try to join the upside party. So we are talking about this particular head and shoulder patterns, right? That was quite clear that we might see some kind of the failure over here. Well, the thing is that one can call Piotr, but it was the distance, we did it, that's fine, all right? But again, based on what we've seen here, with this particular rally, my way of thinking, all right, it was looking for some kind of the developments telling me that half of that consolidation, it might work my way, especially from the lower time frame perspective, to try to have the biggest risk reward setup. In that case, guys, it's not gonna be surprise for some of you, but once we broke 50% of that consolidation, that was the consolidation, because head and shoulder pattern is a consolidation. With this tiny move to the downside, it was the very big setup to the upside. That's what I've been looking for personally, switching lower to the lower time frame. With that being said, guys, that's what I'm looking for. If we have clear direction to the upside, we are looking either for the failure to the opposite side when it comes to the horizontal line, or we are trying to look for the failure when it comes to the particular price action pattern. So when it comes to the horizontal lines, right, that's the support, we are looking for failure and some inverted head and shoulder when it comes to the rally. All right, so we're looking for particular setup to try to go long and look for 3 to 1 when it comes to the risk reward. Of course, if we are going to the downside, we have the same setup when it comes to the horizontal line, because we are looking for particular head and shoulder setup, in that case something like this. All right, so failure only one when it comes to the horizontal line. With the case of the rising line, we want to see whatever without the head and shoulders pattern failure, and we want to join the party as long as we can, in that case following the upside. Guys, if that was useful for you, please leave your comment down in the comments section below, and I'm gonna be more than happy to answer your questions. With that being said, wish you great next trading session, especially that the new month, new week, and the new day is arriving. All the best, see you around, take care, and goodbye.